From Washington, D.C., welcome to the 133rd edition of the Harness Racing Alumni Show. I'm Freddie Hudson, and I'm here today with Trade Martin and Bob Marks.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show with your host, Freddie Hudson and Trade Martin.
This week's Alumni Show is brought to you by Bill Houghton, insuring standardbreds and farms for over 40 years. Bill knows the ins and outs of equine insurance. Make sure your equine investments are protected. Call or text Bill at 954-655-5547. That's 954-655-5547. Call Bill now.
Hey, Freddie, I heard that Huntington Farms had a great sale. Why don't you tell everybody about it?
Huntington Farms Steve and Cindy Stewart wish to thank all of the owners and trainers that purchased a Huntington Farm yearling at this year's Lexington Selected Sale. Huntington Farm wishes all of you much luck and success with your purchase. Look for the Huntington Farm consignment at the upcoming Harrisburg sale, November 8th through the 12th. For more information, call Huntington Farm at 859-987-3983 or email huntingtonfarm@cs.com. That's huntingtonfarm@cs.com. On today's show, Ellen Harvey returns as our guest to give us an update on her efforts to maintain freeze branding with our standardbreds. Ellen, welcome back to the Harness Racing Alumni Show.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's our honor to have you. Ellen, what is the update, and give us an update and how things are going with the USTA meetings.
Okay. Well, there have been 4 district meetings so far. There are, I believe, 13 in total. So we're coming up on 25% or so of them finished. There is then, of course, the national meeting in March between the 11th and the 14th, at which I hope this issue will be finally decided. So the first 4 meetings have been somewhat mixed. The attendance of members has, of course, I don't have any way to know exactly how many members have attended, but it doesn't seem like there's maybe in many instances more than 5. Again, I can't tell exactly how many are in there, but I don't hear a whole lot from members. It seems to be mostly directors. Our rule change proposal has been received in a mixed manner. It's really, unfortunately, kind of a complicated issue because, as you know, I'm one of many people who believe that horses benefit from both a chip and a brand. So myself and some other folks who feel as I do searched the rule book over the summer to find the rule that needed to be changed to give horses both a brand and a chip. We didn't find any such rule that mandated chips and made brands available only with the $75 surcharge. And that surcharge is not even delineated in Rule 27, which specifies all the fees for USTA services, like how much to transfer papers and how much to start a stable name and that sort of thing. There's just nothing in there about freeze branding. The fact that there is no rule that reflects the current practice of mandating a chip and making a brand available only with the $75 fee, it seems to me that there was no due process, there was no transparency. The phasing out of brands, of course, affects 100% of all horses forever, but the democratic process, which is how the USTA makes rules, doesn't seem to be ever have applied to this issue. We did find an existing rule mandating exactly what we believe is important. It happens to be, if any of your members want to crack a rule book, it's Rule 7.06, which has been unchanged since at least 2018. That mandates that the horses have 2 forms of ID. It actually says a choice of a lip brand or a lip tattoo rather, or a freeze brand and a microchip in order to race. We think that's great, and we want to uphold that rule. The response that I have gotten from both directors and staff was, well, first I was told I wasn't reading it right, and then I was told, oh, no, we do have a rule mandating a chip and phasing out a brand, and it's some unnamed other place that doesn't seem to be in the rule book. I was told that we passed such a rule in 2010, but we haven't enacted it because the technology isn't available. Well, in 2010, they did pass a rule that allows for the use of microchips, but that rule says lip tattoos or freeze brands or microchips. And as you know, until just recently, for 25 or so years, horses were identified with either a live tattoo or a brand, and it was the choice of the breeder. It wasn't the USTA's dictate. The breeder could choose a lip tattoo or a freeze brand, and of course, over time, nearly everybody chose the neck brand. So, and then, to my surprise, the last rule I was told, oh, well, that's a typo, and we're going to fix that at the next printing. So I'm not really certain. The 5th meeting is coming up on the 14th of November. That is the New England district, and perhaps there will be another explanation then. I'm not really sure, but the current one is that it's a typo.
Yeah, I'm very surprised that the attendance at these meetings is so low. You would think that the membership of the USTA would that members would show up more so than just having 5 people at these meetings. You know, we have 16,000 members in the USTA.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak to how many are exactly on there. I certainly have no way of knowing. If there are large numbers of people on these meetings, they're not commenting. I just can't answer that. Generally, they've been 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and as you know, horsemen, unless they're sleeping, are usually working. So I'm not sure that there's any magic formula for how to hold these meetings. I believe that there's an audio option that you could just set your cell phone and stick it on the tack trunk while you're working on your horses. But you know, I'm sure that the Zoom access may be difficult for some people that live in rural areas. I really can't speak to that. That's something you'd have to ask the USTA about. But I know horsemen, if they're not sleeping, are working. So it's a difficult proposition.
I've also heard that you had some confrontations in some of these meetings. Why?
Complications? Maybe you could tell me.
Confrontations.
Well, there was a confrontation early on. I'd rather not get into that right now, but it's an evidence, I suppose, that people have very strong opinions about this matter, and it doesn't necessarily need to be the opinion that I hold, which is that a horse can benefit from both forms of identification. So, you know, it's not a shy bunch that we're dealing with here on either side. So I can't say that it's a surprise that folks would be quite certain of their views on this issue.
Right. I think that having both is necessary. I just can't imagine it not having the freeze brands, especially when you have to identify some of these horses when they end up in these kill pens. The scanners, you can't get close enough to them.
Absolutely. You have to be 6 inches away. And I know that the USTA has 2 trains of thought on this, and one is that the folks that get the calls, the breeders, past connections, trainers, drivers, owners, etc., that a horse has ended up in that spot, some of them are grateful to know and they want to help, and some folks hitch up the trailer and go get the horse immediately. Some folks are desperately seeking those horses. There are 15,000 horses enrolled in the USTA's own program, Full Circle, that folks enroll horses because they want to know if a horse from their past needs help. So certainly there is a foundation of people that want to know if horses are in need of assistance. There are certainly plenty of other people that don't want to know that. They're welcome to not help. Nobody is compelled to help. They can hang up the phone. They can be polite or not polite. They can not answer. They can not answer emails, etc. But the USTA does get contacted by those individuals, and I think this is a response to that in part. And it is also true that many of the dealers that have these horses buy them on Monday for maybe $400 or $500, and by Tuesday or Wednesday they're $900 or $1,000. And of course they're in abysmal condition oftentimes. And I certainly object to that markup, and I object to the practice of enriching those folks. I don't think there's anybody that doesn't. But I think the point that is missed here perhaps is that those dealers can access those horses in a controlled situation away from the grade sales or the trailers where they're all packed in and kicking at each other and biting and striking, that not many sensible people would wade in there with a little scanner to blip their neck. What they're doing without having visible ID is undermining the people and the groups. And there are groups, I'm happy to say, that are getting ahead of the dealers and are buying the horses for maybe $400 rather than $800 or $900 or $1,000. and they're going directly to the Amish. They're outbidding the dealers. They're out in the parking lot making a deal. They're on Craigslist looking for these horses, and this makes their practice, their life, immensely more difficult for no reason, for unnecessarily more difficult. So I certainly agree that nobody wants to enrich dealers, and they should be put out of business if possible. But if you want to do that, then I think you need to enable the people that are working, who are almost always volunteers that are doing all of this on their own time and money, enable them to do what they do and do well, and that is being able to see across the room that, hey, that horse is a standardbred. Of course, when you see that they're a standardbred, even if you haven't grown up with the sport as we do, you know that that's a pedigreed animal that was bred to be an athlete, that they probably had extensive professional training, that they can drive at the very least, and of course then learn to ride quickly, that they can get on and off a trailer and they pick up their feet for the farrier. They're not just a random brown horse. You know when you see those 5 digits that horse has probably a pretty strong portfolio, and they're well on the way to being to the point where they can be given a new career after certainly some rehab and some time to get healthy again. So the brand gives folks that are doing that all of that strength, and that's why they need to keep it. And I don't think that the dealers will spend the $279 and buy a chip reader, and they'll be, nothing in their business model will change.
Yep. And Ellen, my last question to you: what can we do to help you, the Harness Racing Alumni? What can we do? That is
a wonderful question, Freddie, and I greatly appreciate it. There are about 11 meetings left, the USTA district meetings. The next one is the 14th of November. It's a Sunday. That's the meeting for New England. And the following Tuesday, 2 days later, the 16th of November, is my home meeting, which is District 6, which is roughly from Kentucky to Florida. And then the next meeting after that is Wednesday, the 17th of November, which is all of Pennsylvania. If you are a USTA member, you will get an email about 5 days or so prior to the meeting notifying you that your district meeting is coming up, giving you a little link to just put in your name and your email address, and they will send you a link to participate. So absolutely, members, if they can participate, that is preferred. If they're racing, they're shipping horses, whatever, if they can just let their directors know how they feel. This is a democracy, and the membership directors represent the members.
Okay.
So this is, of course, affects 100% of horses forever at this point going forward. And I hope that all the folks that listen to your show who are members will take the right and the responsibility that they have for that $75 they pay every year, and let the folks that represent them know it's not a real big deal here. Just give them the form of ID that they've had for 25 years, and you can add a chip.
Okay, we will do that, and we'll add an announcement to our show announcement when we send that out. If you're buying or selling your home, Joe Rico is your go-to guy. Joe has been representing buyers and sellers on Long Island for 30 years. He is an expert in all types of sales. Don't settle for average. Call or text Joe Rico today at 516-524-4870. That's Joe Rico at 516-524-4870.
You know what, Freddie? Give everybody Joe's email address.
That's Joe Rico, C21@yahoo.com. Ellen, thank you so much for being on the show, and keep up the great work that you are doing, and you know you have our support 100%.
Absolutely, Freddie. Thank you so very much. It means a lot to me to know that folks like you are behind you, and all our individual efforts will build a conglomerate of folks that I hope will move the dial on this. Thank you again.
You're so welcome. That's a wrap for this week's broadcast of the Harness Racing Alumni Show. On behalf of Trade, Bob, and myself, thank you for listening, and don't forget to tune in next week.
The Harness Racing Alumni Show